996, and today's video has to do with breaking toxic patterns to better your writing life. Now, you might be thinking, what does that mean? Well, toxic patterns, in my opinion, can be things that are patterns of interacting, patterns of dealing with certain situations that it could be related directly to your writing life or taking a lot of energy away and draining you, and that not gives you as much energy as you would like with your writing. Now, I'm not just talking about your normal stressors, as in maybe you just have a new job and you're trying to make sure that you are learning your responsibilities and the different cultures, or you're in new classes or a new school or some other transitions you are involved in. I'm talking about negative, like toxic patterns, maybe interactions with the way that you handle different things. Maybe your toxic pattern could be interactions with people and they're not beneficial, so you'd be grateful not having to worry about that. And other things, it might be not necessarily someone being a bad person or bad, but you're grateful to not dealing with toxic patterns that aren't beneficial to you and that are extremely energy draining. It could also deal with maybe you're not taking care of your health the way that you want to. Maybe you need to exercise more and you put it off because you're thinking, well, I need to get my writing done. And then that's dealing with something with your overall health. Maybe you need to work on um, managing stress. And then it's like, okay, well, you figure I'm going to just charge on through. I'm going to be a soldier and just keep on going. And then you realize, you know what? If I would have just taken some time to get better at that, then I wouldn't be at the point now. It's like, oh shoot, I'm falling like a snail right now. Or it could also be related directly to your writing. If you're constantly comparing your writing to other people, it is not going to be good for you. Because even though it is great to have aspirations and people that you can admire for what they're doing, you have to figure out what works for you. I'm not saying to go and be procrastinating and say, oh, well, you know what, I'm really not going to write because doesn't work for me and I'm tired. But if the toxic pattern is that you're constantly comparing yourself to all these other writers or maybe your writer friends and the goals that they're able to make, and you try that and it's constantly not work for you, then you need to figure out what does work for you and find out what tools you can use. Maybe look at different things as far as time management. Maybe figure out how you're feeling when you're other and trying to figure out, well, during different points. Like maybe figure out different things about time management, and that will help you as far as your writing is concerned. Maybe if you coming from a writing hiatus, and I made a video about that, that means you can figure out, okay, what you are going to do coming back, or gradually building back up to writing more so, or like you used to, or closer to what you would want to do. Another thing about breaking toxic patterns is if we're only focusing on what we're good at in writing, it's not going to be helpful. Now, you might think to yourself, how is focusing what you're good on a toxic pattern? In itself, it's really not. But if it's just focusing on that, but if it's solely focusing on what you're good at in writing, it can be. For instance, if you are great at world building, you know that, I know how to world build. I know about the religion of this culture. I know about this world's economic status for various different places. I understand how this one significant detail about the way that a vase is or so forth can be relevant to this culture compared to something else. Yeah, I know that. But then you're not that great at maybe showing how your characters are on the page, you just focus on the world building, it's like you're writing fiction, you're not writing a history book. No one wants to just read a book that is just about the world unless, I don't know, it's like you already have some book, you have a great following or something, and then they are going to be interested in learning about the world. But that's because they cared about the book in general, also including the characters. Maybe you're great with characters. And it's like, yeah, I know, make sure I know my people. I know so many things about them. But then you realize, even though you know so much about them, that they are not showing that way to your beta readers. Maybe there are certain aspects of them that are showing through, but other things you realize that you need to work on. If you're only focusing on, you want to ignore the criticism about things that you're not good at, that's not going to help you progress as a writer. That could be a toxic pattern, just holding on to what you're good at. Also, only focusing on what you're not good at as far as your writing, your weaknesses. I say maybe someone is just, that's not their easiest quality is world building. They're really great at characters. Or maybe someone is just not great with setting. It's just like, I care about what's going on with people, but a little bit of description, but setting isn't that big of a deal to me. I'm the type that will pretty much browse through setting when I'm reading different things because I'm not that interested in it. You might not realize that even though you browse through it, you probably still, because of certain details, got a gist of where the people are, and you might need to be concerned about your setting more so. The setting isn't just the background, it also can do with the time, it can do with the place where the characters are. So just focusing on what you need to do, what you need to prove on, can feel daunting because it's an area you're not the strongest in. Also, toxic patterns in writing can be being a little cat and just being so jealous of writers who are places you want to be. Like, I'm not trying to brag. I don't think this is my problem, pretty much. But I mean, there are always people I'm like envious of, and sometimes I think, oh, it's nice. Like, you're doing so well, and wow, this is inspiring. Or, oh gosh, I wish I could be like that. But there are some people who can get really jealous. Like, if you see certain people on social media, or if people get so jealous of the way these other people are progressing. And yes, there will be people who sometimes have circumstances that are easier than yours, or aren't dealing with what you're dealing with, or who have such and such a thing, or maybe there's someone else to look at you and say, well, at least you don't have to deal with what I'm dealing with as far as such and such for your writing. The thing is, even though it's really nice to see, I wish I could have that. Better thing to do is not get caught up in that because you're just going to get angry and people are just going to get angry and mad. And instead, maybe you could be trying to learn what those people are doing. So even if you can't have their exact same circumstances that you find ideal, maybe they have some type of time management, or some type of mindset that they're able to get into, or something. You can be learning from that instead of getting just really jealous of them. Let me see, other toxic patterns in writing are not writing. Now, this should be kind of a duh. Hello, you need to make sure that you are writing. A lot of people in their writing journey do a lot of more daydreaming and maybe write a few pages or a chapter or two, and then not be as focused on completing either be a novel, the short stories, poems, whatever your creative ideas are. And if you really want to take this seriously, you need to treat it like it's something that needs to be finished. And that means continuously writing. Personally, I don't write every single day. I try on a normal basis to write 4 to 6 days a week. And that's because I just realized writing every single day doesn't always work out for me. And also, if you And some people might realize that writing every day is something that they just need to do, or they'll get off the bandwagon. That's fine. But a toxic pattern could be just doing a lot of daydreaming and not writing. I mean, there's nothing wrong with daydreaming about your stories. I mean, honestly, it's kind of a planning thing. And sometimes daydreaming about your stories is a way of just kind of thinking different things out when you're not able to write something down. Like maybe you are driving, maybe you're grocery shopping, or you're doing something else, or something just pop up, and trying to find different ways of how this could happen and kind of playing your mind, playing like a movie. There's nothing wrong with that, or trying to figure out different things for your own entertainment. But if you actually want to be a writer, or see if that is a career path, you know, side career, like for most people, some people they want to go after full-time writing, whatever career path as far as writing is concerned, you have to actually write. Another toxic pattern is thinking that what you have in your mind is going to be on the paper. And it's going to be on the paper just the way that you have it in your mind. And please don't ever think that. There is a quote I will find for you. Shannon, excuse me, Shannon Hale, the author of Princess Academy, a book about a girl who tries to learn to be a princess and get her prince. But the story is much more than that. It also has to do with her finding herself. Um, it has a quote that the author has, and it is, "I'm writing a first draft, and I'm reminding myself that I'm simply shoveling sand into a box so that later I can build castles." Excuse me. One thing I would like to think about as far as that is that's a really healthy way to think about a first draft. Because think about the sand and how it's not anything, it's just sand. And basically, you're putting all your thoughts down. You're pretty much putting all your ideas down. And also, I wrote I wrote short stories and so forth. And I remember a lot of times be writing things down. And sometimes it's more so just kind of telling yourself the story to a certain degree without having your actual ability to present that story that accurately, the picture in your mind down to someone else. If you're able to think of Shannon Hale's quote and think about that beautiful sand and how you actually just need that sand first before you can even make those pretty sand castles, that's pretty much what it's like for a first draft. So a toxic pattern can really just be expecting your first draft to end up like a second draft or a revised draft. I know when I was a teenager, I would often compare what chapters I would write or different, basically attempts at finishing something to a polished book on a bookshelf. And that's really not a great thing to do because even if you're keep rewriting sentence, which I don't believe in, I believe in following like NaNoWriMo standards of you basically just try and get the story down and then you focus on making it something more like a picture in your mind. You just do what Shannon Hale says. You make sure you think of it as a sand castle that you're building. If you just keep comparing to other people's writing or you expect that, it's going to be overwhelming. The people whose books that you looked at, they might have had several drafts of that book before they got to that point. Also, they might have been having, say, maybe your story is your first draft of a novel. Maybe they had written 2 other books before then. Even if it's their first published book, maybe they had unpublished manuscripts, or maybe they had other type of writing, or they learned a lot more about their craft than you did to a certain point. There's so many different factors, and they might have certain strengths that were just very natural for them. And you have your strengths that are natural for you, And it's just really good to think about breaking toxic patterns in general as far as your writing is concerned, so that you can continue to be the writer that you're working to be at. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy.